Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back once again. And, I realized that my last review was a little bit more angry than I intended it to be. Probably because I was pissed off. The build-up of Possessed 7 Churches really got me hype for that album. Then I sat down and was utterly disappointed. But now I think it's time that I can talk about an album that I'm not utterly disappointed by. And that album is Carcass-Reek Of Putrefaction from 1988. I actually have the rare, sort of, really, really expensive earache. The one with the DVD on it. It's part of the pathologist report. There's 5 of these. Goes for Reek Of Putrefaction, Symphonies of Sickness, Necroticism, Heartwork, and then Swan Song. But I'd say this is the most expensive. I paid $90 for this thing. It's worth it. And if you still have no idea what I'm talking about, it comes in this bag. You may have seen it before. Of course, I don't keep it in there. Gotta have some space on the shelf. But, fuck it. Enough of that. I can thank this album for not only getting me into probably one of my favorite bands ever. This and Symphonies of Sickness are 2 of my favorite albums ever. And the songs on here are really funny and really heavy too. Genital Grinder's good, Possessified, Rotten to the Gore's good, Carbonized Eye Sockets, Fermenting Innards, Excreted Alive, Superation I really like, Feast on Dismembered Carnage, all these songs, they're really amazing. Splattered Cavities, Burnt to a Crisp was probably my favorite. Pugnant Excruciation, Malignant Defecation, Oxide Razor Masculator, Manifestation of Her Close Urethra, it just goes on and on. And I can thoroughly thank Carcass for really getting me into other extreme bands, I can say that I heard these guys through Repulsion, technically. It's kind of weird. They were one of the similar artists on the Metal Archives, which I thought was weird because I had known about Carcass, but I didn't think they were a grindcore band at all. So I clicked into that thing, and I found out they did this in '88, which was John Peel's favorite record. Then they came through in '89 and did Symphonies of Sickness, and the reviews for Reek Of Putrefaction seem to be mixed. A lot of people call it a masterpiece, which it is, by the way. Some people think it's, it's shitty, fuck the production. And that's what brought it down for me at first. The production on this thing is shit, I'm not gonna lie. It's fucking terrible, and it doesn't get better with age at all. It's just really it's an album that gets better with listen, I'd say. The first time I sat down to listen to this thing, I fucking hated it. It sounded like crap. The songs were way too short, and the flesh-ripping Sonic Torment demo, which they did in '87 prior to Reek Of Putrefaction, the production on there's better than on the album, but now I'd rather have the album production. It just grew on me. But every song on here is fucking classic. And I'm glad that they went on to do so much better things, especially Symphonies of Sickness. If I had to choose between 2, I would definitely choose this. I feel like this is a little bit better of an album than Symphonies of Sickness. Symphonies of Sickness is really a lot heavier, and I know a lot of other people prefer that. But I'd planned on doing more in-depth reviews, longer reviews. I don't know if this is at 6, maybe 5 minutes, probably something around that time. I'd planned on doing longer reviews, but I realized that it's harder for me to get my thoughts out on camera, because before I had turned on the camera, I had a lot of ideas I wanted to express, and now I can't think of anything. So, I might review Symphonies of Sickness next, maybe a little more in-depth. I feel like I can't really review an album until I have at least sat through it once recently, or, a few times over the past month or so. And, I listen to this album on a daily basis, because it's really an awesome album. I mean, it doesn't get any better with grindcore. Fucking grindcore. Gore grind with these guys. There are plenty of other gore grind bands out there that were definitely inspired by Carcass. I have a few, some that I might review in the future as well. Pathologist, for sure. Fucking love me some Pathologist, man. Shame they only put out 2 records, though. These guys were fucking great. This is Putrefactive and Cadaverous Odds About Necroticism, released in '92 on Mab Records. I think they're defunct and out of business now. Mab are, but excuse me, they put this out in '92. And it sounds just like Reek Of Putrefaction, but shorter, actually. Whereas this is 40 minutes and this is 28, I believe. But this album's fucking great too. It's a good Carcass worship. I think that inner page is a little bare bones, if you ask me. The one I have is kind of expensive. They reissued this, I think, 2 times in the same year on Mab. So I know one's really cheap on Discogs, maybe. That's where I got it. You can't walk in your rear, and find this shit lying around. And if so, that would be the luckiest day for anyone into extreme music. Grinding opus for scenic medical problems is really good. It's like Symphonies of Sickness. I almost feel like it's a little bit better than Symphonies of Sickness. And this is '93 Pathologist, released on same Mab Records with the green disc layout and whatnot. This has the lyrics, so does the other one. That's another one of the really Carcass worshipy bands. And I would say these guys are Carcass worship, but not really. Not really, I wouldn't think. Maybe. That's a Hemorrhage from Spain. These guys are really good too. I think a Murdoch Cult sounds like Carcass. Can't tell which one really. It sounds more like both Reek Of Putrefaction and Symphonies of Sickness. This was cheap as well. Got all the lyrics. And this came out on fucking something records. Morbid Records. That's probably the best Hemorrhage album in my opinion. And then you got Groom, which was my introduction to Hemorrhage. They're alright. This album is. And I think Hemorrhage are a very kind of experimental band, because the demos on here, there's a cover of Proud Mary from Creedence Clearwater Revival. There is just a lot of weird stuff on here for the demos that doesn't even sound like any of the stuff they would ever put out on record. So, I don't think they're really Carcass worship. To some degree, I suppose. They definitely sound like Carcass. Well, this review has probably went on for far too long. I might upload next time whenever I can. Maybe I'll review Symphonies of Sickness and, maybe write down my thoughts on paper before doing something like this. This was a terrible idea. Stay metal. Check out Reek Of Putrefaction if you have not. If you're trying to get into Gold Grind, that's definitely probably the only starter pack you would need. I wouldn't really start with anything new, but this is where it's at, Gold Grind wise. Probably one of the best, if not the best. I personally think Regurgitate's Effortless Regurgitation of Bright Red Blood is a little bit better than this, only because the production is really a lot heavier and nastier. But, just check this album out. Check anything Carcass do out. Fucking incredible. See ya.